so. The Cowboys once again allowed money to get in the way, and this is a very pivotal thing that we can all say. Now, granted, I would tell you guys that maybe if you go into this draft, you may can find a reasonable number 2 wide receiver or a 1A type of receiver that got a mindset of a 1A or 1B that can complement my guy CeeDee Lamb. But listen to this story from Adam. Now, I don't know if this is cap or not, but you guys can confirm it on your end. Let's listen.
Hey, again, I want to point out things change, right? Friday morning, I mentioned that the Cowboys had, I forget the language I used, made a run or made a push for Cooper Kupp.
Mm-hmm.
Last Thursday, the Cowboys reached out about Cooper Kupp, and they were interested. And Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, the way I understand it, were on the phone with Cooper Kupp talking to him about the idea of coming to Dallas.
And then what he said,
Take the money out.
Take the money out.
Come on. You're wasting my time now. Come on. Come on.
And it was floated out there. And then the Cowboys heard the numbers, and they were at numbers that the Cowboys weren't going to get to, which brings Seattle back into play, which leads to Cooper Kupp getting a deal done with the Seahawks. But these things are fluid. Like, things happen. The Cowboys did get in the mix on Cooper Kupp. They found out the price. They were not in the mix.
Right.
But Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, they wanted Cooper Kupp in the mix. And they had ideas about what it would have been like for him to be a Dallas Cowboy.
Man, so with that being said, imagine being on a team like CeeDee Lamb or Dak Prescott, that they have no control of when the restructures happen, right? They knowing that the Cowboys restructured the contracts, right? And thinking that they're going to go out there and get some weapons for them. And then the Cowboys say, you know what?
Take the money out.
Oh, that's too much money. That's too much money. No way. You know, we're not finna spend the money that you pretty much got your contract on, that we allowed the restructuring to happen, to go out there and get you a piece of a weapon, right? Now, granted, the wide receivers that we have here in this particular space, it's a very, 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 very thin room. When you start thinking of Jalen Tolbert, no offense to him, Jalen Brooks, no offense to him, but when you start to look at those things, they could literally be your day one guys. And that could absolutely be the picture of the Dallas Cowboys. Them receivers right there, as it relates to day one. If they don't go into this draft and draft a wide receiver that can move the needle a little bit or make things happen to that degree, there could be just that, you know. And unfortunately, that could be the situation and scenario as we look at this. And I know it's going to be small on the screen here, but I want to pull this chart up just so you guys can see that this could be very much so your wide receivers heading into week one as it relates to Jalen Brooks, CeeDee Lamb inside the slot, and Jalen Tolbert. If we don't change this up, now granted, the Jalen Tolbert and the Jalen Brooks, they are the areas of the unknown. We know that, right? And there are 2 other wide receivers that we can hope that they can live up to a level of expectations to a degree. And that is Ryan Flournoy and, say it with me, Jonathan Mingo. Those are your 2 wide receivers that we hope that they can pretty much jump in front of Jalen Tolbert and Jalen Brooks. But I think that the Cowboys should listen to what CeeDee Lamb and as well as what Dak Prescott is saying. Hey, let's bring in a veteran guy so that we know for sure that this guy knows the area and the terrain and knows how to play within leverage and on top of that with wisdom and understanding. Now, nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed when you're playing in the National Football League. But there are some things that you will have to pay very close attention to around the league, whereas the modern day trend is you got to literally nowadays have 2 number ones or a true X receiver that can warrant some attention. So let's listen back to this situation. And I get it. Cooper Kupp, he is a slot guy. But let's be real. He would help this team out a whole lot better than what we've seen with these 2 guys talking about Jalen's, you know. But here's another thing. I get it. We got Paris Campbell. He's a speedster, supposedly, and he's 6'1". Maybe he can get into this mix. But think about this. He was just on a team that he didn't get no snaps. And you had them still going out there grabbing a Jahan Dotson. And, of course, you have, dare I say, A.J. and Smitty. And he didn't get no ticks. So it's the area of the unknown. Leaning on that is a far stretched thing. It's just for what it is.
Hey, again, I want to point out things change, right?
Yeah.
Friday morning, I mentioned that the Cowboys had, I forget the language I used, made a run or made a push for Cooper Kupp. Last Thursday, the Cowboys reached out about Cooper Kupp, and they were interested. And Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, the way I understand it, were on the phone with Cooper Kupp talking to him about the idea of coming to Dallas. And it was floated out there. And then the Cowboys heard the numbers, and they were at numbers that the Cowboys weren't going to get to, which brings Seattle back into play.
That's what it is. Shame.
Shame.
That's been my time.
Shame.
I really thank you all for yours.
Shame.
And remember, you're listening to nothing but the best. We always let money get in the way. And I'm not saying that I would smash an egg on my head if we got Cooper Kupp, but I know for sure off of just recognition alone on the field that he's a higher upside, even at his age, than what we have now. DC for life, not for sure. That's been my time. I really thank you all for yours. And remember, you're listening to nothing but the best. Go Cowboys. Peace. We out.